Illegal dumper thinks house is still empty, gets trash returned for free. Over a decade ago, I rented a house that had been sitting vacant for quite a while. The owner was an elderly woman who had passed away a couple of years earlier, and her daughter, also elderly, lived about an hour away. She didn't want to sell the property since the housing market still hadn't recovered from the 2008 crash, so she decided to rent it out instead. That's where I came in. The house wasn't anything fancy, but it had good bones and a decent yard. It was clear it had been empty for a bit. Some weeds, a little wear and tear, and an overall sense that it had been forgotten. But I liked it, and I was happy to make it home. That is, until one particular trash day. I woke up early, grabbed a coffee, and stepped outside to bring the trash to the curb. That's when I saw two large black garbage bags sitting next to my bin. They were full, and they definitely weren't mine. I stood there for a moment, confused. No one had asked me to throw anything out, and I hadn't put them there. At first, I thought it might be a neighbor with an overflowing bin. Not ideal, but I might have overlooked it if they'd asked. But something felt off. I decided to investigate further, mainly out of curiosity and a dash of irritation. I put on some gloves and carefully opened one of the bags. Inside was your typical household trash. Food wrappers, used paper towels, some plastic packaging. But then, jackpot, a piece of mail, complete with a name and address. It was like they had signed their work. Turns out the dumper lived just a mile and a half away. I was unemployed at the time, so I had nothing but time, and honestly, a little pettiness to spare. Since I didn't own a smartphone yet, this was the pre-2016 era for me. I jotted down the address and directions on a notepad and headed out in my car. As I drove, I considered what I might say if they answered the door. Maybe something clever, maybe something cutting, but I hadn't really decided by the time I pulled into their street. I found the house easily. It matched the name on the envelope. I got out, knocked on the door, and waited. Nothing. No one home. So I did the next best thing. I took their two full bags of trash and deposited them right onto their front lawn. Not on the curb, not hidden. Right there, where they couldn't miss it. Then I got back into my car and drove home. There was something deeply satisfying about the whole thing. I wasn't angry enough to confront them directly. I didn't want a yelling match or a neighborhood feud. I just wanted them to know that their garbage hadn't disappeared into a void. It came back, like a bad decision, boomeranging right back at them. A week or two later, it happened again. Sort of. On trash day, I noticed someone had left a few random items next to my bin. This time, it was a child's broken plastic rocking horse, some random loose junk, and more debris. But this time, they'd been smarter. No mail, no names, nothing I could trace. Without an address, I couldn't do anything. But I think they were testing the waters, trying to see if I'd retaliate again. Maybe they thought they could keep using my bin as their personal landfill. They were wrong. After that, I never found strange bags by my bin again. I imagine the sight of their trash dumped on their own lawn was enough to make them think twice. Maybe it was the surprise. Maybe it was the embarrassment of neighbors possibly seeing. Or maybe, just maybe, they finally realized they weren't being as sneaky as they thought. What really gets me is the assumption that because the house had been vacant, it was fair game. Like they'd grown used to treating it as a dumping ground while it sat empty and never adjusted when someone moved in. No note, no knock, just trash. I wasn't looking to start a war. I didn't involve the police or call the city. I just gave them back exactly what they gave me and let the message carry itself.